So we all enter seasons in which we get a little frustrated, things aren't happening according to plan, according to our schedule, according to what we like. But in those seasons, of course, as believers, God's challenging us. He's got a plan. He's the perfect personal trainer. He knows exactly where we're weak and what spiritual muscles need to be stretched in order to grow, in order to mature. And I want to share two things with you today. First of all, I have made the commitment to spend more time with my children as my wife returns just part-time to go to work to keep up her nursing skills. And yesterday she was away from the house for 16 hours. So I had the 6 little ones. Actually, things went really well. I got really close to wanting a nap at one point, but that blew over quite fast because of the I think something came up and I got distracted, and I don't think I felt tired until 9:30 at night again. So, but I want to just share with you, so I kind of struggle with this as a man, being at home, taking care of kids, doing lessons, changing diapers, feeding, serving, hanging up laundry, scrubbing the toilets, like, I vacuumed the house, all the time, reading to the kids, playing games with the kids outside. We did a workout. We have a hill behind our house. We dug some steps in the soil going down the hill. It's a pretty steep hill. I think we dug about 40 steps. So that was a while, and then we had a workout. We ran the stairs for all the kids. So ended up really well. The grace of God was with me. I really appreciate the Lord, my special time with the children. It is exhausting, but here's the amazing part. 1 Timothy chapter 3 verse 4 says that one of the qualifications for a man to be able to pastor or shepherd God's household, the household of God, the church of God, is that he must cultivate the necessary characteristics in the context of his own home. So I know there are a number of pastors who are not married or single, and at one point being in those shoes, and then getting married and now having children, I can see great wisdom in this verse in Scripture. Because in the context of my own home, I've literally had to develop tremendous amounts of character, ability, skill, and maturity just in the context of my own private property. So it's amazing that God never requires seminary. He never requires many of the things that today the world or the church looks at. Rather, he picks something that cannot be challenged as playing favoritism. Basically just says, learn to be successful in the context of your own home. And if you can do that, then there's no problem with you being raised up to take care of my home. Now, no one's ever going to be perfect, and in saying that, I already feel like I am not worthy. You should see what happens at the house, and sometimes I lose my self-control, or sometimes I lose my patience, and many times I just don't want to be a servant anymore. I want to care about me. I want to do me. I don't want to have to get up again. We just had dinner the other night, and I literally had not taken a single bite of food, and already some of my children were done because I was cutting up food for the other ones. I was preparing. I was trying to serve my wife. I go to sit down and take my first bite of food, and 2 of my children come back in with empty plates saying, "Can we have more?" And it's times like that God really provides opportunities to grow in maturity and to walk in a very selfless, loving way. So I mean, I have learned problem solving. This is the same is true of my wife. Problem solving, conflict resolution, relationship, like counseling skills, teaching, management, character, speech, and more than anything else, being a servant. Which Jesus says, if you want to be great, you must be the servant of all. Now, in this video, I just remembered that I left my AC running. So if you hear a background noise, it's my AC over here in my office running. So sorry about that extra sound, but hopefully you can hear me. So God's amazing. He is absolutely amazing. And if you want to be elevated into ministry for the Lord, learn to and be content with the ministry that He has given you at home, with your wife or your spouse, your husband, and your children. Second thought for today is I just finished a book on Army chaplaincy. And I guess, I never struggled with this, but I guess a lot of soldiers do. And a lot of chaplains have to theologically struggle with this moral issue. And for many, it doesn't make sense. It's difficult for them. But the issue is, thou shalt not kill, like the Ten Commandments, which is in Exodus chapter 20. Now, a lot of versions, and I would argue that this is correct, say thou shalt not murder. So I looked up murder. Murder is the unlawful killing of another human being. Unlawful killing. So thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not murder. I'm going to make an argument, very brief one here, but I can go into much further detail if necessary, that this commandment, one of the 10 commandments, is thou shalt not murder. It's not kill, murder. Because in the very next chapter, in Exodus chapter 21, we see instructions regarding capital punishment, like the lawful killing of those who break the law, of criminals. One of which is this. Let me just read 2 or 3 verses. Anyone, this is in verse 12 of chapter 21. Anyone who strikes a man and kills him shall surely be put to death. However, if he does not do this intentionally, but God lets it happen. In other words, it was an accident, and in the sovereignty of God, God could have prevented that accident from taking place. Let's say I'm chopping wood, the axe head falls off, slips off the end, and it flies through the air, hits somebody in the head, and kills them. Unintentional, right? But it was a death nonetheless. That person can flee to one of the places of refuge, one of the cities designated as a place of refuge, where they can receive a trial, it will be investigated, and they will be cleared of their guiltiness. They'll be declared innocent. Okay? However, if a man schemes, so that's premeditated, that's intentional. If a man schemes and kills another man deliberately, take him away from my altar and put him to death. So there's a big difference between murder and killing. God actually calls for the sake of preventing anarchy, he calls and he institutes government to keep the law, to keep rule and order. And we see in Romans chapter 13 a very strong defense that governing authorities are in fact God's ministers to protect people from lawlessness. And it says that they don't bear the sword in vain. In other words, they have God-given authority to punish and even kill those criminals who break the law for the sake of society, for the sake of the country, the culture. And so when I was in the military, it never really was an issue for me, because if you have a population group that is bent on killing and destroying and terrorizing another population group, and they're not going to stop, no matter what, then I would rather take the fight to them and fight them in their territory than have repeated events like 9/11 happen. So that was my clear justification from Scripture. I didn't consider it to be murder. It was justified in defense of innocent people. And God, all throughout Scripture, gives license for, he actually commands. He's a defender of the innocent. So I saw my role and the role of the military as ordained by God to protect and defend innocent lives against individuals motivated by Satan to murder innocent lives and kill innocent lives. So that was very clear in my mind, but for many chaplains, and I guess many Christians, many soldiers, it's formed somewhat of a predicament mentally. But I wanted to share that with you as I work through the Old Testament here, finishing Exodus. And of course, these principles came up, the Ten Commandments in Exodus chapter 20, and capital punishment, the lawful killing of those who commit violent criminal acts. In Exodus chapter 21, we see additional texts in the New Testament, Romans chapter 13. So, God has ordained that society function with peace and according to law, and ultimately, you know what? He is the giver. He's the creator of life. No one has the authority to set the standard for the taking of life except the one who created life and sustains life, which is God. So he's the ultimate authority regarding right and wrong and regarding moral behavior. So as in everything else, in this category of killing or murder or death, God has ordained legal system, has ordained the government to pursue justice, and if necessary, to punish accordingly. And I'm completely in support of that. So, two little things stood out from my reading here today that I wanted to pass on and share with you.